Disclaimer. Nobody in this episode is giving financial or investment advice or advice of any kind, so what you do with your money is on you. Don't try any funny business. The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Hello, downers and weirdos alike. Welcome back to another great episode of The System is Down. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week to see what we're talking about here and hopefully expanding your own knowledge and your way of thinking. Now, I always say that this show is about having uncomfortable conversations, and that is exactly what it is. I'm not here to lecture you. I've said it since the very first episode that I'm not going to pontificate and tell you how to think. I'm not an expert on any of these topics. I'm not an expert on really anything, and most likely you aren't either, if you're being honest. No, what I like to do is come here and ask questions, open dialogues with people who have different backgrounds, beliefs, interests, and understandings than I do, in hope that I might expand my own knowledge, and then I give it to you in hope that you'll do the same. I mean, let's be honest, most people don't like to ask questions. They don't necessarily want to admit that they know less about something or anything than someone else does. Certain people don't ask questions about, conspiracies because maybe they're afraid of what they might find and how it might affect their worldview. Lots of people are afraid to ask questions about religion because it might make their faith seem weak, or it might make it seem like they don't have a good argument for their side, or maybe it could, in certain areas, it might make them seem heretical to other people in their congregation. And the vast majority of people don't ask questions about politics and economics because they just don't want to look stupid. And so nothing changes. I'm not afraid to look stupid. I know for a fact, whoever you are listening to this right now, you personally know a lot more about a certain topic in the world than I do. And I know a lot more about certain topics in the world than you do. So we can go on playing pretend, presenting our most, polished, glossy presentation of our life on Facebook, or we can start asking questions, shutting up, listening to someone else's view, and just thinking. As you likely already know, the title of this episode is What the Blank is Bitcoin. I didn't title it that because I'm going to get on here and educate you on all things Bitcoin. I titled it that because I was personally asking the question, what the blank is Bitcoin? So what did I do? I found 3 guys who know infinitely more about the topic than I do. I brought them on the show and said, hey, guys, tell me everything. I want to know. So fear not. I will continue to ask the questions. I will find people with the answers. And all you have to do is sit back, listen, and just think a little. But I would encourage you to go out and do the same. Find someone who knows more or has different views or backgrounds than you and get a little uncomfortable. I mean, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain from sitting down and picking somebody else's brain, even if you disagree with them. I would also encourage you to please share the show this week with someone who you think would enjoy what we're doing here. We need far more people in the world who are humble enough to, well, not even humble, just self-aware enough to say, I don't know, let's talk. If you like the episode and want to support the show and help us spread the value of discomfort, you can do so for as little as $1, and in return you'll get a plethora of fun bonus audio content every single week. You can do that by going to tsidpod.com/support. So I hope you enjoy the conversation I had with Jon, Brad, and David about cryptocurrency, and maybe you'll expand your knowledge in the process. Oh, and also, one thing I should note, when we were talking about this, of course, I was curious to know the numbers, the winnings and the losings, but afterward we decided it would probably be best to strike out the specifics on that. If anyone was, God forbid, audited or anything like that, I certainly wouldn't want this show to make anyone's life harder than it already is. So, anytime you hear this sound, don't be alarmed. That just means someone was oversharing. So, with all that said, and without further ado, let's get weird. My guests today are many. We're doing something completely different today. It's a round table, 2 people that have been on the show before and 1 newcomer. We've got Jon Schweppe, who was on the Libertarian, Republican, Democrat debates and on the Catholicism Worthless episode. Jon, how's it going?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm financially a little destitute, but we're hanging in there.
We'll get there. Save it. All right. We also have Brad Moran, who was on the 9/11 episode, breathing heavily into the mic. Brad, how's it going?
Good. My breathing is under control this time. I feel much better.
I appreciate that. And our newcomer today is David Hemphill. David, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Dan?
Fantastic. Now we are all
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Dan.
Let it
This
go.
is wonderful.
Let it go. We are all Aledo alum of Aledo High School. So we all basically went to high school together. We all know each other. And the difference between the 3 of you and myself is you guys are into cryptocurrencies, and I don't know jack squat about anything cryptocurrency other than it is some sort of computer nerd currency that is trying to take the place of the dollar, and it's not doing so well right now. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge.
You got it. That's the podcast right there.
Yep.
That's everything.
So if I've summed it all up, thank you guys so much for coming on. No, so yeah, I wanted to have you guys on. Jon and Brad, you guys are currently, you guys talk a lot about this stuff. You go back and forth between the 2 of you, and you're currently in the process of potentially starting a podcast together. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the funny thing about that is that when we were talking to you about doing this, that's back when Bitcoin was at like 17,000.
You were
And we're
still,
like, yeah, man,
Yeah.
like everything's
Oh,
going
it's-
up. We're making thousands of dollars. Let's do a podcast.
spoiler
And,
alert, it's not right now.
Dan like checks in like every week, like, hey guys, we doing that podcast?
And you send
Brad
back
and I, like,
pictures of
respond,
you
like-
cutting your wrists and stuff like that.
So, but now we've like come to understand to feel like, okay, it's all over anyway. Might as well start talking about it. So
Right. So if you guys can each give like some background of you guys, basically like what, again, I know nothing about this stuff. So, and also I should preface by saying this is a totally impromptu episode of The System is Down. There was no preparation. We were talking about doing it maybe tomorrow, or we've talked about doing it a bunch of times. And then Brad was like, let's do it right now because I'm bored and staring at myself and my computer screen. And so we decided to do it right now. I have no notes. I have no plans. I'm just here to learn from you guys. And I'm sure that a lot of the listeners know as little or, well, maybe not less, but at least as little as I do about cryptocurrency. So you guys are here to educate me and the listeners and talk amongst yourselves. But let's start with Jon. Do you want to give kind of your background, what got you into crypto?
so I like to gamble a little bit, and did some online gambling. Used Bitcoin as the transactor. And so I'd kind of been around Bitcoin for a couple of years and found it fascinating, but never was something, I felt comfortable investing in. So it's actually kind of hilarious looking at transactions of, 1.5 Bitcoin for like a few $100s and things like that. So eventually, this thing kind of started heating up in like October, November, December. I would say I got involved officially where I was like trying to actually like hold Bitcoin and other cryptos around September, October.
Mhm.
And it's been a wild ride. So that's kind of been, I've just been trying to learn about it.
Sure.
Initially, I was just interested in Bitcoin because, that's what I knew and understood. Then I realized there's thousands of these and they all are different in different ways. And so I just kind of started getting into it. And
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
it's
get
a
into
really-
the
it's really interesting.
specifics here in a bit. But what was it that got you into it? Did somebody tell you about it, or where did you even what sparked your interest with it?
So I knew really it was very limited. Like I knew about Bitcoin because of being able to transact in Bitcoin on the internet. And then I had a couple friends like telling me like, oh, you need to check out Ripple, like, or have you heard of Ethereum and stuff like that? And, I was like, what the heck is that? And so I can't remember. I want to say it was like late September, but I finally like started doing my own research and was like, oh, these are actually, and we'll get into this, but I was like, man, these are better than Bitcoin actually. Like this is, Bitcoin might be the big name, but this is better. This is better. And learning about all of the technology and like each of them trying to do unique different things to make them useful. And it was really fascinating.
Sure. Well, without the breakdown, none of that really makes any sense to me. So we'll move along. Brad, what is your introduction to Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin for me happened in a similar situation to John because we had played online poker. And usually you would just kind of get like a check to cash out your winnings, but they have this Bitcoin option. And so I had to create a Coinbase account, which would hold this Bitcoin for the first time. And so I at one point I had 12 Bitcoin. This was when it was like each. And because I'd won a bunch of money in this tournament, I got 4th place and did pretty well. But I instantly took the Bitcoin out because it was fluctuating so much, and I just wanted like the actual dollars. Sure. I didn't even know what Bitcoin was. I just knew it was a means to go from this digital asset, to my bank account.
So you, it was basically you wanted to play a poker game, and they were like, well, you got to buy these chips, and these chips cost this much, and they fluctuate in price and everything. But you were just doing it to play poker at that point.
Yeah, basically it was my poker winnings in this weird thing called a Bitcoin, and I was like, well, I can turn this into US dollars, so let's do it.
Sure. And
I didn't hold them at all. I could have just let them sit there in my account, but I didn't want to risk losing even more money,
Sure. So, Brad, did you get into it around the same time as John, like September?
No, he actually decided to wait and invest really early so he could max his gains before me, and didn't get me in until like mid-December.
Sure.
So that's when I started. That's when it's really kind of like taken full force now, and you like kind of have to check this stuff every day,
Sure. David, how about you? Where'd you get started?
I really got involved with Bitcoin only about, 3 or 4 months ago. It was about October, November that I really started getting heavily involved in Bitcoin and doing a lot of research into it. I started mining, a few months before that, just with a program that I downloaded off, I think, of the Microsoft Store, of all places. It was just went by a simple name of a Bitcoin miner. And it was just real quick, simple click, this, start mining Bitcoins, and you would mine maybe like 100 Satoshis a day, which is nothing.
A lot of words. A lot of words I don't understand.
Which now, 100 Satoshis,
I don't know.
would be a few cents. So, so for those of you that don't know, a Satoshi is the smallest increment of a Bitcoin. It's, I think, 0.0000001 of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's one Satoshi.
Yeah. And Satoshi comes from the supposed creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. And that, could be, another topic for,
sure,
later on down the road, or later even on in this podcast. But it's really interesting, kind of the origins of Bitcoin and kind of when it got started, how it got started, who started it. There's a lot of debate about that, but I really got involved with Bitcoin when I really started seeing the value of it go up. And I saw that, and I was kind of doing some reading of, well, how are these Bitcoins created, and that's actually how they come into existence, is through mining.
So who originally turned you on to it? Like, how did you even find out about it as a thing?
I really can't remember because that's been quite a while ago now, but I just seen, numerous articles, people sharing about, Bitcoin. I imagine it was probably through one of my, numerous pages that I follow on Facebook, as far as, because I've been a PC gamer and enthusiast for a long time. And so, yeah, I imagine it was through one of the groups that I'm a part of on Facebook.
Sure. Well, Yeah, a lot of words from all of you that I don't understand. So we've got a lot to dig into here, a lot to mine, if you will.
Oh,
But let's start with the basics. I mean, for somebody like me and probably a lot of the listeners, what in the world is Bitcoin? Can somebody give me like a clear, concise explanation of what exactly we're talking about?
Well, according to Wikipedia, it's a cryptocurrency and worldwide payment system, if that's of any use to you.
Okay. So, what is a cryptocurrency? I mean, for me, that's like using the word in the definition. Like,
Yeah.
what was Bitcoin the first cryptocurrency? That
It
started?
was, I believe, yes. Kind of what differentiates cryptocurrency from, the PayPals and all those kinds of, digital payments of the world is, from my understanding, is that for every transaction, there's, something called a hash. And it's, it's something that's generated, cryptographically. And that's what the Bitcoin miners mine for, is that hash that is created each time a transaction is made.
What?
Dude, I really don't understand it either. Like we kind of just went head first into this. Like I don't understand the technology as much. You just kind of look up this stuff online and you just pour a
Yeah.
bunch of money into it.
Yeah.
So like,
So
Well,
Brad,
I
you're,
mean-
you're Brad, you're just kind of looking at the numbers and the ups and downs, and you're like, this is what it is, and
pretty
Don't care
much
about the
like I don't
specifics.
need to understand how this little doodad connects to the thingamabob and all this. I really don't understand the computer side of it at all, because I mean it's just so advanced for
Sure.
me. Like I'm just at the face level of it.
so I think I mean the big difference. Okay, so like right now, if you if I want to send you money, Dan,
Mhm.
and let's just say for this example we have the same bank. What physically happens to the money is that if I send you $20, the bank will deduct $20 from my account and put it in your account, but the money doesn't physically move, right?
Mhm.
It's physically in the bank's account.
it's numbers.
So
yeah.
like, so the blockchain and cryptocurrency, one of the cool things it does is it makes it where these, accounts, these wallets are physically different. So instead of a third party kind of handling all these transactions, having the ability to seize your funds, freeze your account, all that,
Mhm.
you have this system where I'm physically sending money to you, you're physically sending money to me, and then
is
that's
this money in air
verified.
quotes, or I mean,
Bitcoin or whatever currency it is.
sure.
And that is verified instead of having a third party kind of like a mother bank that's looking over these accounts and shepherding all of them. You have, infinite. So the entire blockchain is maintained by all these miners, by all these participants, and so it's a more decentralized look at how the accounts work. That's not true for every cryptocurrency, but with Bitcoin specifically, that's kind of the essence of it. It's this idea of not depending on a third party government or bank or something like that to maintain your accounts, and basically like through the goodness of their hearts allow you to hold your money because they're holding it,
Sure, yeah.
in reality.
So cryptocurrency in general it's like it's a different dollar. It's like, let's say, a Canadian dollar, but you can give it directly to each other. Just trying to put this into perspective, I suppose, and I could be way off, but it's like a different kind of dollar that has a different value to the American dollar or other dollars in other countries. But it's just a completely new currency, a digital currency.
Totally.
Yes.
You can move it all around the world.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially. And with the difference, and this is something that especially some of your libertarian listeners probably like about Bitcoin. One of the things that is a criticism of our current central banking system and all of the fiat currencies is that they have these increasing supplies. So, back when the financial crisis happened, the Federal Reserve decided, hey, you know what? We're going to print a bunch of dollars. It'll stimulate the economy. It'll help get everything back on track. So they did this thing called quantitative easing, where they essentially ushered in trillions of dollars into the money supply, and basically devalued the currency in the process. With things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ethereum's actually a little different, but like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ripple, they have set supplies that in the case of Bitcoin, it's actually approaching. So as the miners are mining it, it gets harder to do it. It's approaching, what is it, David?
21 million.
21 million?
21 million. Yep.
So there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins.
And
where
I think there's 18 million in circulation now, something like that, 18, 19 million, something like that.
Yeah.
What,
you have this like
what is that cap
limited
based on?
the algorithm. It's baked into the code.
Okay, go on.
And what's cool about the decentralized nature of it is that if somebody tried to hack that, they call it, what is it? I think it's like a 51% attack. If someone tried to hack that and change the thing, everyone would have to agree to it. You wouldn't have like this one powerful person who could just be like, you know what, I'm going to hack that and change the way Bitcoin's done, because you can verify the change.
No, the ledger is distributed amongst all the miners. So in order to change the ledger, you have to change the ledger on all of those computers, and that'd be, next to impossible.
It'd be a one hell of a hack.
Yeah, that would be the hack of the century, if not, the millennium.
All right. Well, I'm going to assume that my listeners are smarter than I am, and they totally understood all of that, because I could say what all day long, but it's not necessarily going to make any more sense to me.
What?
But David, do you want to? I'm curious about like the mining, exactly how that works and what goes into that.
Yeah. So when Bitcoin first started, there were very few people mining it, and so with the very few people that were mining it, the level of difficulty that it took to mine it was.
What do you mean by mining?
Well, the number of transactions that were being made were quite minimal, and so with that, the difficulty, there weren't as many transactions to process. So put it that way. So anyone with just an old computer or a laptop could sit at home and mine Bitcoins. And then it got to the point where, Bitcoin kind of started to catch on, and, people were buying, graphics cards, or, realized that they had, their graphics cards in the computer that they could use to mine Bitcoins. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And so with that, the last year or two sucks for people like myself that, really enjoy PC gaming, because the prices on these desktop graphics cards has gone through the roof.
They saw what people were doing with it.
Yes. And so, like, for example, I just built my desktop here about a year ago, and I bought a couple video cards off a guy here in town for, I think I paid $50 for each of them. I just looked on eBay, and the GTX 680 card that I got, it's a 2 gigabyte card. I bought it for, like, what I say, $50. It's going for $130 now.
Wow.
So
So
invest in graphics cards, maybe a better investment than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
Right.
not to go back here or show my hand as being any more dumb than I already have, but mining, I don't understand it in any aspect whatsoever. You're saying that people are buying these things to mine.
I think, like, as far as I understand, when people do a transaction and I send my money to you, somebody needs to provide the energy for that transaction, and the Bitcoin miners figure out that equation when they move the money from X to Y, and so they get a little kickback of that energy used, and that's the piece that they mine. It's so minuscule, and so they get some of that as Bitcoin. And that's how they make their money. So they do all these transactions all the time. So when David says there's more and more people doing these, mining, it's because there are so many more people that are willing to do these transactions that it slows everything down. So you do less and less, and so you get less and less.
The protocol works by actually having these really complex math problems that only computers can solve. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you get these graphics cards, and what they're doing by using all this energy and running your power bill up to $2,000 a month or whatever. They are not even joking, by the way. That it's so ridiculous.
Some people go all out, and they'll have server racks full of these graphics cards, and it's just it's crazy.
And they're just doing math, and there's these equations they have to solve, and then when the equation is finally solved. That processes a block, so all these transactions go through, and then these blocks are released at set intervals over time. And the reward for the miners, the reason why they even do this to begin with, is the new Bitcoins that are released with the blocks. Mm-hmm. So in the case of David, who does do mining, if he was on his own, okay, so this is, and Dave, you'll probably want to get into the pools or whatever. But if David was doing this on his own, he had all of these servers on the wall, he would have a chance, a really small chance, at being the one to crack it. And then if he did it, I think it's 12.5 Bitcoin? Is that the reward?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
So if his machine happens to be, and it's literally almost at random, the one that cracks the equation, then he gets the full bit.
The equation for what exactly?
From what I understand, I think the math equations are actually unrelated to the need. The math equations are just a method to process the transactions. David, that is where I haven't mined, so I'm not a computer programmer, so that is probably above.
So I'm going to give my translation of this nonsense and say,
okay,
there you are coming up with these codes, coming up with these ways to crack this and make it work better, and because of that, you get a reward of Bitcoin. Am I way off here?
You're not way off.
No, you're not way off at all. No,
You can say it. It's fine.
No, you're a lot closer to the truth, and I think than you realize. But yeah, the reward right now is currently 12.5 coins per block, and that's having in 848 days, so like 2.5 years, give or take. And so I just I think it was Brad that just asked me the other day about Bitcoin mining and whether it was too late to get into mining, because a lot of people will say, oh, it's too late, the cost, the return on investment is just not there. I kind of disagree. I think I told Brad that the sooner you get into Bitcoin mining, the better, because the rewards are only going to go down and the difficulty's likely only going to go up over time. So, and that's kind of why I jumped in when I did, because I may not make a whole lot, at the end of the day, but I figured I leave my computer running all the time anyway. Why not have it make a little bit money for me while it's, I'm not using it.
And Dave is in a pool. So like what they do, because it's only one machine's going to crack it, and then that one machine's going to get 12.5 Bitcoin. Well, that is leaving a lot to chance.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you right now that if you go out and buy a miner, don't join a pool and try to do it all day by yourself, you're not ever going to get a Bitcoin. You're not ever going to get anything. So you join these pools of miners around the world, and they all work together. And then if one of them gets it, they split up the 12.5 Bitcoin evenly amongst themselves. So that's, and David, you were in NiceHash, right?
Yes, I'm still using NiceHash. I'm sure some people out there are probably going to give me some crap for that. They, so for those that aren't aware, NiceHash was hacked here back early December. A lot of people lost a lot of money. I think it was not good. They did come back. I think about 2 weeks after the incident. What did I say about there was a lot of Bitcoin that was stolen. They are in the process. I just got an email here a day or two ago. They are phasing in. If you had above a certain balance, I think it was like 0.001 of a Bitcoin, that they would start incrementally paying those balances back to you. Of course, I had nothing in there, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get anything back. But yeah, I use my main mining operation, program website that I use is NiceHash still, just because it's so easy to set up and use. I've used Slush Pool in the past when I had what's called an ASIC miner, which is a specific device. You just plug it into USB, and you just mine it with that.
John, you have something to say?
You okay?
You look stunned.
I just refreshed CoinMarketCap and everything's falling more.
All right. Well, we'll get to that too. Just crying inside.
What I love about this
real
so far
time,
is that
John's life falling apart.
No one who listens to this podcast is going to rush out to be like, I got to buy Bitcoin. They've heard about someone who mined, who got their shit hacked. They heard about, Brad and me just like, oh, it's so terrible. We've lost
We'll
all
get
our
to
money.
that. We'll get to the downsides and we'll get to the potential possible upsides in the future. But before we do, you guys are talking about how this mining and all that stuff, it equates to like your payoff is like 2.5 Bitcoin. Can you explain how like 12.5? Can you explain how that conversion actually works or what? Because I mean, for people that are listening, if we're talking about converting a Bitcoin to $1 and you're talking about 12.5 being a big deal, sounds like $12.5, but I don't know.
So that is actually, I mean, just like any currency market, what a Bitcoin is determined by what people are willing to pay for it. So, we were just talking about just the basic system of how to receive Bitcoins through mining. There's a secondary market where people are trading Bitcoins for US dollars. And that market has been around for a long time. It used to be that people, didn't really see a lot of inherent value to Bitcoin. So, Bitcoins were going for $5, $10, $20. And not a lot of people were using them to transact or anything like that. Over time, what's happened is that there's been more and more interest in it, more and more transacting. So there's been more demand for the idea of a Bitcoin currency. And as that happens, the value of the currency naturally goes up. Just like, if you think of Beanie Babies, which is a terrible
I always think of Beanie Babies when I think about currency.
Because they're worth nothing now. But really, I mean, it's like, a Beanie Baby inherently has no value unless everyone thinks it has value. And once it has value, then, you can sell whatever Beanie Baby. I did Pokemon. I don't know anything about Beanie Babies, but you could sell
the thing that you just brought up.
Yeah, you can sell the Beanie Baby for $30 and if someone else is willing to pay for it. And what's happened with Bitcoin is that because it's a limited supply and demand has been increasing exponentially up until about 3-4 weeks ago, the price has just continued to go up and up and up and up.
Well, where do we go from there? I mean, we can eventually get to the rise and fall, but I feel like there's more that's missing here, and you guys are deep into this, so you might not know. I mean, any other like groundwork that people need to understand before we get into the actual crux of the matter here?
I will bring up like why, because I think a lot of people, like one of the biggest things they ask is like, why does anyone need to transact in Bitcoin? Like, you
That's
can
fair.
use dollars.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that's really cool about it versus dollars is that, well, obviously you can transact anonymously. You can transact safely without depending on a third party. It's also infinitely divisible. So like we are divisible down to cents. But Bitcoin, David mentioned Satoshis earlier. It goes down. It's literally like you don't have to own one full Bitcoin. You could have 0.002 Bitcoin, and that is, a set amount of US dollars.
Sure.
So there's a lot of different reasons. In countries like Venezuela or, where they have a currency that isn't stable and it's losing its value, a lot of people flocked into Bitcoin as a potential, safe haven, like a place where they can have that value. Maybe they're not able to get US dollars easily. So, it's kind of one of these competing currencies in the world marketplace. And I think it has a lot of use. Maybe we haven't totally gotten to that point yet, but I think once it gets to the point where people are, taking Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin, once Bitcoin handles some of its problems with transactions, maybe it won't be Bitcoin, maybe it'll be something else. We could have this idea of a global internet currency that no one would be disadvantaged to use.
Sure.
I mean, think about like right now, like how would you buy something in, insert third world country here in their currency? Like it would be very difficult to actually go get that currency. They have to transact in US dollars to get you. But Bitcoin or any of these currencies can act as an intermediary and allow global commerce. So it makes sense I think in a global economy to have something like this.
Globalist.
Yeah, pretty much global. I know.
So you talked about before, like these hundreds or thousands of different companies. Like you got into Bitcoin first. Like, are all these things dealing in Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin the currency, and all these different companies are dealing in the process? Or can somebody explain like what the difference is there?
Okay, so this is what I know. That there are like all these Papa coins, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they have all these forks. Like after this coin has been around
Oh
for a
gosh.
while, this is going to get really scientific. Actually, it's not because I don't know. But like after these coins have been
It
around for a
should,
while,
but it won't.
they have all these forks. Like Ethereum, I know, has had these other guys pop off of it, that aren't worth as much, but they use the same network. So I guess they're just like branches off of the mainstream that kind of aid in these equation solvings. Like Ethereum has got Neo, which is also like it's along the same lines. Again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just a speculator, like I'm just one of these guys that here, let me just say, I'm just one of these guys that reads this stuff on the internet and just has like this gambling ambition inside of him that thinks this stuff's going to go up,
You're just like, money is
Like,
no
I just-
object. I'm just gonna
Oh.
throw it in, see what happens. Don't
No,
care where
I
it is.
just I just like speculating on it. It just looks like a fascinating technology. I believe in the hype, there's a lot of people talking about this stuff. And so I just run around on Reddit and just find new stuff I like. And they have these exchanges, which is where you can find all the little coins at. And so basically you just buy a Bitcoin or an Ethereum and then you just put in these exchanges and you can move it around and just get like, I've got like 2,000 Stellar, I don't even know
don't
if they're gonna happen. There's so many. There's 1,400 of them, Dan. You can get whatever you want on there.
Okay,
They
so
cost nothing.
all
There's
of these
10
different
coins.
things are different currencies in themselves,
Yes.
and
That-
you're
that people
pouring
are
into
creating.
different digital currencies. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If it wasn't confusing enough, David, you
Well,
want
and
to
some
go
of
from
them-
there?
It should be noted that when Bitcoin was first created, it wasn't, now people see Bitcoin as an investment, and it wasn't really meant for that. Yeah, it had, it was, kind of designed to have, some value at some point in time, but really it was kind of meant, I don't want to say so much to replace the dollar, but to kind of act, I think, kind of act as a, like kind of like John kind of mentioned earlier, as like kind of a global means of exchange. So, when I first started doing research into it, one of the more appealing things to me about Bitcoin was the use of remittances. Today's global banking market, to send, say $500 to, say I have family over in the UK, it costs, $50 to wire that money, and it goes, and it takes, a day or two to do it. Whereas Bitcoin, the fees are, the fees for Bitcoin have, gone up a lot, but, it's still minimal, I believe, compared to, an old fashioned wire transfer.
Mhm.
I think that's where, people started seeing, a lot of value was in remittances.
So are all these companies and all their currencies? I mean, does it get? I mean, of course it does, but is it convoluted? I mean, for somebody to get into it at this point, if you're talking about you can invest in Canadian dollars or Mexican pesos or whatever, like, what is the difference in all these things? Is there like a noticeable difference?
Yeah, no, I think there are. There's differences in the technology. There's differences in the use cases. So something like Bitcoin is kind of trying to be an all-in-one currency where it's useful for consumer transactions. It's useful for anything. Some are trying to like focus in on like one use case. So like David was talking about remittances. Ripple, which is the one that is my favorite, is it's a company and they have a currency called XRP. Their goal is to be the currency for banks to transfer money from one to the other. So right now, for a bank in Germany to send money to a bank in the US, they use this system that's old and antiquated and expensive. And Ripple was able to say, hey, you can use our blockchain technology and it'll cost you like a cent to transfer millions and millions of dollars. And so that's why I like Ripple. There's other use cases, though. There's like, I mean, Brad is much more knowledgeable of some of the like really weird ones, but you know, there's some that are like, oh, we'll be focused on social media and we'll be focused on, you know, buying bananas and different things. And, you know,
yeah, there are so many, and there are so many weird, like they just come up with reasons to create coins pretty much to like solve problems.
Right.
Like there's like Red Coin, which John kind of got me into. Red Coin is supposed to be like a social media coin that was created, which is like, you know, if you want to pay for Farmville, then we'll sell you this Red Coin that you can use.
If you want to pay for Farmville, then just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just go away.
But you can speculate on all these things because all these things have prices that fluctuate. So if you think this coin's going to be huge, like if Mark Zuckerberg sent out a Facebook message that said, hey, we really like Red Coin, we're thinking about using it, Red Coin would shoot up like thousands of %, you know,
Sure.
because people think it's going to get used. And so that's why you can speculate on whatever you want.
So, and I'm going to like really try not to go deep into the economics of this, but I think a big question is like, why do these currencies go up in value? And so obviously there's the speculation aspect.
Well, before you do that, quick one more dumb question. And when I say one more, I mean another one, and we're going to probably have a bunch more. But so let's say somebody in Russia they put money into Bitcoin, they've raised a certain amount of Bitcoin, they send that Bitcoin to me to pay for a purchase of some sort. Does it have the conversion rate, is it the same here? Like, is it the same? How does that work? Is it like the same amount of dollars to like US dollars to Russian dollars or whatever they have? Or like, how does that work exactly?
So ideally there would be in a perfect market where there was one exchange, it would be the same. There's small differences between like Russia to Bitcoin and then Bitcoin to the United States because of, you know, there's just small differences. But generally what you're saying is true. Okay. If a Bitcoin is worth $6,500, so you would be able to go US dollars, $6,500 to that Bitcoin and get approximately the $6,500 in Russian rubles.
Okay.
And the only fee that you would be paying is the
transaction. If Donald Trump was paying Vladimir Putin in Bitcoin, just kidding.
Which may have happened. I mean, that's
it was probably Monero. Like there are some coins on that have existed. Like seriously, terrorists trade this stuff because you can be so anonymous, you can move so much money without anyone knowing. Like this is the currency of terrorism. Monero and such things.
That is actually like one of like the things that people don't like to talk about. Yeah. But like Bitcoin initially was the dark web currency. Like really? This is what people. I mean, this is terrible to say.
We talk about Silk Road.
Yeah, exactly. But it was used to buy hard drugs. It was used to contract hits on people. I mean, like if you look into like what the dark web was, like Bitcoin was not. It doesn't have a like saintly past. Now it's like, oh, you know, Wall Street likes it, but
perfect for your podcast.
Hey, I'm a libertarian, so I'm down with all that stuff. But
especially calling hits on people. That's probably
of course. No, John, I cut you off in the middle of something. Do you remember where you were going?
So I was going to talk about why the values go up. I mean, there is the raw speculation. So like Brad mentioned, like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg mentions Red Coin, and everyone goes into it. Why do they go into it? It's because they believe that if it's used, what happens is that naturally, if you transact a lot in a currency, the currency has to go up in value because people want it to use it, and so the demand just goes up. In cases like Ripple, the reason why I love it so much is because if they're going to transact billions and billions of dollars across from banks in Germany to the United States to Japan to Zimbabwe, if they're going to send billions of dollars across their currency, by necessity, the currency would have to be worth trillions as a total market cap because it has to be able to hold the billions. Like you can't, if your total currency is worth $50, I can't send you $100.
Right.
Because there's not enough currency. And even if it's, if we're talking $1 billion, the currency would have to be worth more than like 5 billion. Otherwise, you'd have to own 20% of the entire currency. Like that's not reasonable either. So basically, like it's a situation where I think a lot of the people who are getting into this stuff, especially the non-Bitcoins, are speculating that this is a currency that people will use for that specific use case in the future. It's this idea that currency is about to evolve in a way that we maybe can't even comprehend yet, and they want to get in on the ground floor. And I think in some of these, long-term, that might be the case. In most of them, we're probably just going to go to zero. It's probably going to fail with most of these.
So to simplify, you're talking certain people, let's say Bitcoin is the Beanie Babies, and Ripple is the Pokemon cards, and something else is the Pogs. And some things, they all fluctuate depending on how many people use them. And you're basically just trading stock in Bitcoins, Beanie Babies, and Pogs. Or no, Pokemon cards, Beanie Babies, and Pogs. And Pogs are going to bottom out clearly before their time, and the rest are going to fluctuate a little bit more. Am I on kind of the right track here?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Pokemon cards is a really interesting one because they get traded.
No, it's not.
Yeah, they're still getting traded. Yeah, they're still getting used. Like Pogs.
But no, and then when you really get into like the global finance aspect of it, it's like, okay, if Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin is not, it's marginally transacted. Like the average person, I'd say probably less than 1% of people in America have ever sent a Bitcoin transaction, maybe even like less than 0.1%. So it's not widely adopted. It's not widely used. In a theoretical world where it is, where Bitcoin is used as frequently as the dollar, you would see by necessity billions and billions of dollars going through it every day. And so you would see the overall market cap be worth trillions. But because there's only 21 million Bitcoins, for that to happen, one Bitcoin would have to be worth a lot of money. And so that's why everyone's speculating. Like the speculation is basically, we think this is the currency of the future. And the US government and all these the banks and all that are like, no, excuse me, not the currency of the future.
David, I think you were trying to weigh in there at some point. I might be wrong.
I might have had an idea, but if there was, it's long gone.
Okay. It's all good. Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay. Now, before we get into the rise and fall of the Fourth Reich of Bitcoin, let's talk about, let's get a little religious here. For you who are Christian-y people, do you think that this can be the one world government, the global currency that people speculate the Bible is talking about? I'm taking a conspiracy switch here because that's what I know, and then we'll come back to the nerd porn or whatever you guys are doing.
my first reaction was, I sure hope so, but then I didn't want to say that out loud.
Do you think it will get to that point? Do you think it will ever be a bad thing? Do you think it'll ever be so big that it's a problem?
I don't know. It could be because it's such an early technology, but I just don't really see it reaching the widespread adoption that it was designed to have.
Like the reality is right now, and this is actually why, and we'll get to the crash in a bit, but it's crashing because people are worried that the gateways to fiat currency will be closed. And so if you feel like you have to trade Bitcoin into US dollars for it to be useful, then Bitcoin inherently has no value.
Right.
Like,
then you're missing the point.
It has to have that value on its own.
So what are you guys crying about right now then?
Right.
No, this is why, like, having this podcast now versus a month ago, it's just totally different.
Right.
Because a month ago, I would have told you, you know what, this is going to probably overthrow the concept of fiat currency by governments.
To the moon.
And
Model.
and now I'm just kind of like, oh wait, I forgot that governments totally have an interest in shutting this whole thing down.
Sure.
And they're working on it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, it was I think just last week or two that India banned cryptocurrency, and I keep seeing all these stories about major banks. I think Citigroup was one of them. Banning purchases of cryptocurrency with credit cards.
Brad, you should talk about that, by the way.
Yeah, so all of my investing I've done on credit cards because crypto is better than credit at this point. And basically I've done, everything on a credit card, and they just started charging cash advance fees because, I guess it means they consider it to be currency. And so I did a $200 purchase and was charged a $50 cash advance fee.
Ooh.
So they like to that was the last one I did, obviously. But they're really putting the hamper down on new people getting into this market, and I don't know what that's going to say, for the future, if it's good or bad. I don't know.
I mean, that just basically shuts down the idea of using a credit card to purchase cryptocurrency. It's done.
Right.
And so the other issue is that right now, one of the few sites you're able to actually even buy cryptocurrency on is Coinbase. And right now, if you want to buy, they only offer four, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Ethereum. If you want to buy one of those, now you can't use credit cards, really. So now you have to buy them, and then they don't give it to you for 8 days. So you buy it, and then you're like, well, I'm just going to hold and hope for the best. Meanwhile, everything's going down, like, literally every day. So, I mean, it is a really bad situation. And, like, I'm
It's
hoping
by
the time this airs, I'm hoping it turns around. But, like, I wouldn't be shocked if we see some new normals that are just really, really ugly.
I know.
I think I'm gonna sell tonight. I really do.
You're not doing it. You're not doing it.
This is like
the
the
more
worst.
I talk about it, I'm just
worst people in favor of Bitcoin here. Like, do it, absolutely do it, but I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm out. And when people go out, then Bitcoin loses all of its value. But I'm out. Screw it.
Yeah, exactly, John.
I'm sorry. I just like it. It is really, honest to God, depressing. And we can get into the rise. I mean, I guess we're starting to talk about the rise and fall. But like,
I've got one more question before
All
we get there. David, you were going to weigh in. What were you going to say?
I heard something the other day that that I thought was, probably true. Really rather amusing to me, that they were comparing Bitcoin as they were calling it the MySpace of the cryptocurrency. Like when MySpace first came out, it was awesome and everyone had one and was using it, and it was great. And
Still
look at
could
MySpace
be.
now.
Put it back where it was. # revive MySpace. Just do it.
And you look at where MySpace is now. Kids these days have never probably heard of MySpace.
Kids these days.
So,
But
go ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say, kids these days and their Bitcoin and stuff. It's just funny to talk to the older generation about it because they're so skeptical about it. And at first, I completely ignored everything that they were saying, and now I'm just like, you know what? Maybe this is just a bubble.
Yeah.
Maybe this.
Well, I'm 30 and I'm the old man here judging you guys.
Yay.
John, you're still 29, right?
No, I just turned. I'm 30.
Okay, well, you're the old man.
I remember I first heard about Bitcoin years ago. This is probably, I don't know, 2010 or so. So it was only about a year or two old. Yeah. And it was the joke thing of the internet. Who wants to buy these Bitcoins? And at the time, I was one of those people that I just laughed it off too, because I didn't know what it was. It was this fake digital money, and little did I know that how much value it would have all these years later.
Yeah. Well, just like Beanie Babies, it did. It had its time. Not saying that it won't, but you know.
Pokemon is still going.
Yes, it is, which is phenomenal, and that's mostly because of Pokemon Go. I assume reviving it, but that's a completely different discussion. Can somebody please explain to me what HODL is?
Hold on for dear life.
Was it a typo? Did it originate as a typo for hold?
I think so. I think it became. That's what I read. I think it became a meme. Yeah, some guy
like the Kafifi of the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right.
Except now people are inventing a new one. Sodal. Sell now. Get out. I will say though, like the cult of HODL is real. Like these people are just like, no, you don't sell, you don't sell, you don't sell.
And John, I saw you preaching that on Facebook Live this morning, and now you're like, I'm selling tonight. Screw it. So
well, it's dropped like 30% since this morning. But no, I mean it's an actual cult. It doesn't make any sense. One of the things that I've been having an internal argument about, and Brad hears most of it, but it's every time you don't sell, every time you hold HODL, like you're actually buying if you think about it. Like it's not this like idea of like, oh, there's nothing you can do. Like you're consciously making a decision to buy at the point you're at, because you could take fiat, right? So this HODL thing, I hate it now. I mean, I did just say you need to do it this morning because
you did.
The meme. But HODL had me HODL from 350 for Ripple all the way down to, hold on, let me refresh.
65 cents.
65 cents.
Yeah, 65 cents.
Wow.
$3.50.
That
that's
so you're holding on to Pogs, hoping for the best.
That is a very big drop, and I had a pretty decent amount. As I said, like I'm a pretty big gambler. I love gambling. Mm-hmm. This is probably 10 times more than I've lost in my life ever in any one time.
To put it into perspective, are you guys all willing to say like how much you initially invested, what you're at right now, and like how that's worked out? If not, it's fine, but curious.
No, I'll do that. I don't mind. Yeah. I bought Ripple. So I started in Bitcoin in September, bought a bunch of Ripple, got in for about $1 total, and I ended up on the way up. I sold my $1 to get my money back, and at one point I had Ripple, so you guys can do the math, and that did not go well. So I mean, I'm in profit. Like a lot of people have lost money. Poor Brad. So I know like to the average person, like me complaining about this is like ridiculous, right? Because I'm up. But I'm up, and if I ever sell, maybe I won't, and I'll just not be up.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's a real punch in the gut. So I'm just really trying to stomach it.
I am not in profit. I have invested slowly, like over a month on a credit card. And so I'm in for like just putting money online, and I'm sitting at like right now.
Oh, Brad.
Yeah, probably. But here's the thing.
Wait,
I don't care about
can we all have
money.
a moment of silence for Brad?
No, here's the thing. I won't even take my own moment, because there are so many people that did so many worse things. I can only imagine somebody that dumped their savings account into something and it's just crashing.
Mortgaged their house. There's people out there, I'm sure, have done that.
Yeah, I heard about a guy that took a second mortgage out, when Bitcoin was like 17,000 or 19,000. And now it's at like 6,500. So his house is worth, like 40% of whatever, like people are just making poor decisions. Like probably me. I probably should count myself in this group, but.
David, how about you?
I really haven't done a whole lot of, the speculative buying or selling. I did buy some Litecoin back in early mid-December, I want to say, right when it was about $100. I bought, and so that was about And then, I don't know, a few weeks after that, kind of when everything was going, sky high, and Bitcoin was about 20 grand. Litecoin was about $300. And I wanted to sell, but I hodled.
So dull.
And so to make a long story short, I think I sold that $50 investment for, so I still made, 3 times as much as
Sure.
I put in, but.
Sure.
See, there are people on all ends of the spectrum. Like there are stories like David's where he's like happy about, the.
Right.
And then I've also read things online about like some guy. I read like a suicide story where some guy lost 200 million. Ran nothing up to 200 million.
Good Lord.
And when I was during these crashes on Reddit, like the number one thread is always like the suicide hotline, because there are people that are like really invested into this. I'm not even joking.
So
I'm not even joking. Yeah, it's this serious.
Can I ask a question to you, David? Were you ever an online gambler or a poker player?
No.
All right. Yeah, that's why the other two of you are crying right now. And he's like, yeah, hodl be damned. I'm gonna.
You're right. You're right.
It's kind of true.
The thing is, though, I have to say this. I thought repeatedly about cashing out, and I kept going to my wife. And I was like, honey, what do you think? Like, this is a significant amount of money. Like, maybe we should take about half of it out. And she was like, well, do you think Ripple's going to keep going up? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I my projected valuation.
So you're asking her, and she's asking you. So
so what I'm saying is, like, she's more of a hardcore gambler than I am, apparently. She's like, wait, so you think you can make $1 million off this? Well, why would you ever sell? I'm like, okay. Pro tip, I did not make $1 million.
Sure.
It's not done yet. It's not done yet. I know this is a case for hodl, but here's the thing. If you believe in the technology, and like if you actually think this could happen someday, then hodl. Then hold on for dear life. Like, we're gonna make it to the end.
Yeah.
Like, give it a shot. We haven't even seen like some of this stuff, like MoneyGram and Ripple just connected or whatever, and it's supposed to be done by, I can't remember when MoneyGram is supposed to put it into use. But if they use it and they love it and they say, hey, we want to use this technology and buy this currency, then it's going to skyrocket. It's been 1 month, Jonathan. Don't sell.
No, I mean, that is actually kind of the crazy thing about this. Like, it's actually, if you just go back to November, prices were where they are now. It just went straight up in December and straight down in January. Like, that's literally what happened.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the rise and fall. I mean, when I talked to you, John and Brad, initially, like, you guys were sky high. You were on cloud nine. You were interrupting conversations to check to see where you guys were at, because it was going up and up and up. And you were like, we're going to start a podcast. It's going to be great because this is going to, like, take over everything. It's going to be amazing. What exactly happened? I mean, if people haven't deduced it by now, it's not going up anymore, to say the least.
I lost 83% of almost dollars. That's what happened.
So what causes that? Is it just like people
So there's this thing
bailing out, or what?
In the market, it's called FUD. It's the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And it's basically, once again, the market controls these prices. So whatever people want to pay for it. If people think, if some announcement comes out like, hey, we think, that China is going to ban cryptocurrency, that's scary. So everyone sells, they want to sell. And so then something else comes out and says China's not going to ban it. So they buy and the price goes up. And so basically it's just waiting to see when these things take, hold into these economies, and when they actually get used, take hodl. You're using the terminology. I'm impressed. For a newbie, you're catching on quick. You even had that To the Moon reference earlier.
Yeah.
I think we need to get you we need to get you something, Dan. What do you like? You Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash? We need to get you into one of these, huh?
They're cheap.
None of them are looking too great right now. So what caused the crash? Like, is the crash just because certain countries are saying we're not going to allow this anymore? And also, like, what causes countries to say, screw Bitcoin?
It's just a mentality change. I mean, like, what happened was everyone in December, first of all, and you probably saw this on the forum, like all that, like, every random person was getting into Bitcoin because the prevailing sentiment.
Plug the forum real quick.
The system is down for him, man. Like, it's like the greatest place. It's the only reason I go on Facebook anymore.
I thought you were going to plug your forum, but that's fine too.
No, man, no. But the idea in December was pretty much like, yeah, man, like, F the big banks, like, F the governments, like, this shit's going to take over. And in January, it became, oh my God, governments have a lot of power. Oh no, the banks are
Surprise.
stopping us from doing
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it just became, it just completely flipped. And now what's happening, and I mean, the reason I'm even like saying I want to sell, which I'm not going to, but because at this point, what difference does it make, Hillary Clinton? But really, it is, it's sad. But
Well, here's the thing.
At this point, people are like, okay, if I can't trade this in for U.S. dollars, if banks stop me, if government stops me, what point is any of this?
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate fear. Like I
But
I get it.
At the same time, this is a global market. There are so many influences on like what happens. Like we can't even predict. It's so
Right.
volatile. It's so unpredictable. Like they were saying a month ago, like the Chinese New Year had a huge impact on why the market was dropping. They're like, oh well, because the Chinese market, this happens every year. And they save up their money for Chinese New Year, and so everyone's like, okay, sure. And then it kept like dropping, and people are like, we have no idea.
It's over.
What's
It's
New Year's
still
over.
Chinese New Year.
It's still Chinese New Year.
Happy
damn
New
it.
Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
What is the reason for Chinese New Year being a dropping point?
Because people didn't want to invest. It's kind of like Christmas, people are spending money on presents
Right.
and things, so they don't. People basically just get it in their heads and they come up with some dumb reason for why the market's going to crash, and then everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. It'll go back up. Okay, we could do this, guys. And then it just keeps going down.
Sure.
I mean, basically.
Sure. So I want to get David, your take on this rise and fall, because you're the non-poker online player.
Yeah, I just see stories in the news, like John was talking about earlier, it seemed like Bitcoin was unstoppable and it was just, the next big thing. And a month, 2 months later, all these countries are banning it, and all these, big, Facebook's, banning it. Yeah, there's just been, wave after wave of bad news for cryptocurrency in general, really.
Sure.
I just looked on CoinMarketCap, and everything is down except for
Tether.
what the hell was it? Oh, something I've never heard of. It's number 92 on the list. Siren Labs token.
Everybody, go put all your money
Go
into
buy it.
Siren
Is up.
Labs token.
19.71%.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
All right, can we talk real quick about the hype? I mean, where were you guys all a couple months ago? How did you feel? Brad and John, I know pretty much how you guys felt at the time. David, how did you feel during that rise? Did you bail during that time, or did you bail like on the slight decline before everything hit
Oh
the
hell
fan?
no! Hell no! I was in it for the long haul. I thought, okay, maybe this mining thing is actually going to pay off. And I was all like, yeah, next year I'm going to save up and I'm going to buy, the best graphics card that's out there on the market, and instead of earning only, 50 cents a day, I'm going to earn $5 a day.
At what point
You know.
did you say, like, are you totally out right now? You said you cashed out some of your stuff. Are you totally out, or are you still in it?
No, I still mine every day. It's mining almost not 24/7, unless I'm using the computer for email, Facebook, whatever. But if I'm in bed or if I'm at work, it's I'm mining.
Cool. So what is the reason why these other countries are bailing, and what is keeping the United States from bailing, and what happens when they do, or if they do? Like, are you guys just flat broke?
Well, this stuff will always have value in other countries that allow it, so we'll just have to fly to Tajikistan and just cash out our money there and take a camel back home.
I mean, terrorists will always take Bitcoin, to be fair. Like, I don't think it's going to happen here. I really do think a lot of this is just irrational FUD, as Brad said.
Yeah, please.
It's scary irrational FUD because it can go really low just on fear.
It's a gamble.
One of the things that's kind of like a frustrating thing is that people who are hodling right now are not affecting the price. Like, they are just holding, and the people who are affecting the price are the sellers and the lack of buyers. So holding doesn't actually help pump up the price at all. So I think it's just a month from now we could be looking at a totally different paradigm where everyone's
We have
like,
no
you know
idea.
what? Yeah, we have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, Bitcoin could be at $500 a month from now. I mean, honest to God, could.
Well,
And
for
it
sure.
could
I mean,
also,
like when you and I and Brad talked like a month or two ago, it was rocketing up, and now that it's down, people. I mean, am I wrong to say that people might be right to buy in at a low cost and like jump in to get it rocketing back up, or
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, you think this is the bottom, you could buy in, and then guess what? It keeps
right.
dipping lower and lower. Like you just don't understand. We've gone through all these swings.
Bitcoin advocate Brad Moran here.
I have, like realized how emotional this the market swings are, because you do go through these moments of despair where you're like, I'm an idiot. This is going down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should have sold. And then you sell, and then it goes back up, and you're like, I'm an idiot. I'm not in the market anymore. It's going back up, And so that's why I'm a holder, because I have no choice. I'm down so much of my money. What am I going to do? Sell now? Like, no. You got to hold to zero, pretty much. That's all I'm going to be doing.
Sure. So, David, do you have any words of wisdom for the market gamblers of John and Brad here?
When I put in my dollars, for example, for the Litecoin, I thought, okay, I'm gonna hold on to it, and if it I'm gonna wait and sell, until at least I make my money back, preferably double, and then I got greedy, and I thought, well, I think it'll go a little bit more, and then sure enough, it did. And then it went, when it went back down, from 300 to 150, and then I kind of started to panic. I'm like, okay, this is done. This is way too stressful for me. I don't have the time to check the price all the time, so I'm out. I won't speculate. I'll just stick to the mining, do what I know.
So your words of wisdom are just grow up and pay attention and bail when you need to bail.
Yeah, well, and
that's assuming you've been up.
Sure.
Right. Like everyone else out there says, don't invest what you can't afford to lose.
Right.
I mean, that is good advice. That is good advice.
Sure. Now another dumb question: if you put in 5,000 and it dips down, are you able to lose more than 5,000?
No.
Okay.
You can lose almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
But you'll never be below what you already gave away, right?
Correct.
No.
Yeah, if you assume that you just instantly lose it when you put it in there, like it's
unless you do it on credit, right, Brad?
Well, yeah, I don't have to pay it back until what? I got 21 months. I'm good.
All right.
No, but I think that is a big part of it. Like you got to look at it, and this is what I'm trying to convince myself, and I keep having this internal argument. But you got to look at it as like, do you think like Ripple? Okay, do you think Ripple is going to be worth a lot in 2020? Like, do you think this will actually work, this project? If you do, then buy it, hold it, and don't look at it. This is like the classic story, and I know stocks are a completely different animal, but I think the fear is you don't want to be the guy who invested in Amazon, made like 30% on it, and then sold it, and then it went up another like 10,000% over the next 10 years. So that's kind of like the idea here. I mean, if this is just what's hilarious is if we hadn't had the December jump and we were where we are, I don't think any of us would be like freaked out at all.
Sure.
It's all that psychology that's messing with us and driving us crazy.
So is gambling, but
it's gambling. That's the thing. Like anyone who tells me this is investing, I mean, it is investing, but like, well, investing is like, like you're trying to have something kind of secure, right? Mm-hmm. So like where you have a small chance at losing, but really your average is going to be a few percent growth. This is nothing like that. Like this is literally, it's maybe a better version of roulette, but you are putting your money on like 6 numbers and hoping for the moonshot. And, sometimes you get the moonshot and give it all back anyway.
Well, I think for people like me that don't know anything, that's kind of the scare is that it can possibly dip below and then you lose money, like not just the money you invested, but I would be willing to invest a couple $100 just to see what happens, and then that's just the bet that I take, and I'm okay with losing that.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if everybody approaches it with that mindset, then who cares? Like, you're back to ground zero, and you have the potential of making hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars more, if you believe in the product. So, any thought, any cheery thoughts on why people should do this? I gave my best stab at it, but you guys have. If we had this conversation like 2 months ago, you guys have been like, obviously, you need to do this. Any thoughts on why people should invest in Bitcoin and help you guys earn back your fortune and potentially more, or is it a lost cause at this point?
No, you have to believe. I mean, if you are somebody that believes in innovation, believes that we're going to enter like a new era of technology, like we did with the internet, and you think like and you can read some of these stories, you can watch like some of the videos of this technology in use, and you can see pictures of other countries in the world that accept these currencies, and you believe like, we could go into a new era of digitized currency, where just the swipe of a card, or you just show your phone. I saw some videos of vending machines accepting different currencies where you just hold your phone up to the vending machines and they accept the currencies. So if you think it could happen, go for it. Take a shot.
Sure. Quick question for companies like that are accepting Bitcoin, or like if I, for my podcast, was to accept Bitcoin as a currency to allow people to get the bonus content or whatever, would you say that people that are doing that should just cash out and so they can get their reward and just leave it at that? Or if these vending machines are doing it, is that what they're doing? Are they just bailing out and saying, thank you, goodbye?
Say that again. I could totally miss what you're talking about. I totally spaced out. You can edit that out later.
That's fine.
Totally missed it.
Well, Brad, you talk about like vending machines and stuff that accept Bitcoin, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When they get the Bitcoin that is given to them, are they cashing out immediately, or are they investing that as well? Like, would they be right to be like, well, you gave me $6, the worth of $6 in Bitcoin, so we cash out now? Like, is that how that works, or are these companies also investing?
I don't know. No, it was just one specific video. It was in Korea, actually, because it seems like the both South Korea and Japan are way more interested in this than us.
Sure.
But they've always been kind of on the forefront of technology, which is why this is kind of exciting. I'm not sure what the individual vendor does with the money, if they just want to convert it into I mean, you can hold on to it, and then if more and more people accept, then it just becomes a more, used currency in the world, and you don't even need to trade it into Korean won or whatever.
Right.
So we'll see.
Gotcha. So, John or David, any positive thoughts on why people should invest in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency at this point?
Well, I would just say that one of the things about the market is that when everyone is like, get in, and everyone feels exuberant, that's usually the top. And when everyone is like, OMG, I need to jump off this 3-story building, that's
Right.
usually the bottom. So I mean, it is possible that crypto is a completely failed experiment and all this stuff is going to zero. I don't want to discount that, but I will say the fact that literally everyone is on TV right now on the financial network saying it's over, ha ha ha, you idiot Bitcoin people, and the fact that we're all sad and all that, that's usually a pretty good sign that we're near the end. And I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if by the time this runs,
You mean
I don't know when they're
near
run
the
it.
end of the dip?
Yeah, near the end of the dip.
Sure.
I will say, this has happened in Bitcoin's history repeatedly. It's hard to compare because there's just not anything like this in like stocks and equities. Like stocks don't drop 85% and then go back. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Usually like these crashes in the stock market, you're talking about 25% being a very serious crash. But Bitcoin repeatedly in its history has dropped 75%, 80%. This actually isn't that bad. I think this drop is now we're at 66%. It doesn't even compare to what happened after the Mt. Gox stuff happened several years ago. So, I am very discouraged. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to stop. Like I have a buy point. Like I'm watching Bitcoin if it drops to this price, I have a set amount of US dollars I plan to put in. So I still do believe in the technology winning out. It's just, the markets are crazy, man. Like, again, like, just if you're going to put money in, assume you've lost it, let it sit there, do the research, like look for something that you think is like the cryptocurrency that'll succeed. It's Ripple, by the way. And if you think it's going to succeed, put it in it. Don't touch it. Put it on one of those little drives. That's what I have.
And this is not financial advice in any way. This is
That's true.
This is all true. We do not advocate that you buy anything. We're not shilling any products or services mentioned. So just understand that, future buyers.
So John, if it does come up back to a point where you are like raving about it, will you bail or will you stick around like you did this time?
I learned a lesson. If it goes back to where it was, I'll take some profits, a more significant amount. So no, I'm willing at this point to say that was a mistake, just because, and this is just standard financial advice, but like I was very leveraged on this, like compared to I'm not rich, so like to be able to take part of that and put it in more secure investments. Is a smart idea. And I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people who have invested in Bitcoin, young kids especially, and they did really,
like 8-year-olds are investing in Bitcoin.
I think I saw on CNBC the average age of a Bitcoin trader is 13.
Wow.
It's not true,
really?
But no, seriously, like the younger people have gotten into this. They've become, almost Bitcoin millionaires and then lost 2/3 of it. And I mean, that's insane. And I think the lesson in this is that there is no easy way to become a millionaire. Like if you invest in something and you make money, take your profits, pay down your house payment, like, put it to your student loans. Like that's all.
Don't take out a second mortgage on your house.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be a bad idea. But no, my attitude is, and I've said this since I started talking to people about cryptocurrency, I'm happy to tell you what I'm doing. I don't recommend that someone get into it. Like, you're not an idiot if you don't get into cryptocurrency. It's incredibly high risk. I do think there's a high reward, but I mean, it has to be up to you. Like, if you think that you have $500 that you could afford to lose and you want to take a shot at turning it into 50,000, then take that shot.
Then hodl.
Something that you believe in and hodl, but you might lose it.
Sure. Yeah. It's a gamble. David, your final thoughts? Give us something positive from a rational mindset on cryptocurrencies.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like what I was talking about earlier, this, possibly being the MySpace of cryptocurrencies, it's still a very young technology. It only was released, less than 10 years ago. So I think I've read in the past that the final block, Bitcoin block, won't be mined until something like 2140, like 130 years from now. Wow. So, and who knows where Bitcoin will go by then,
Yeah, any government can say we're going to shut it down, but that block will be mined.
Right.
Yep.
We've seen what can happen in 2 months, I don't even want to think about what could happen in 30 years time. So,
all right. Well, if anybody has any final thoughts, give them now. Go.
Hodl. I saw a hilarious tweet. So there's a meme in cryptocurrency that everyone's going to go to the moon and buy Lambos, right? And I don't own a Lamborghini, by the way. So I saw it was Doug Polk. He tweeted this out today, and he said, maybe all these people who made all this money off Bitcoin should have bought Lambos because they would have held their value better than Bitcoin did. Oh.
All right. On that cheery note, thank you guys so much for coming on, all of you. I appreciate it, and we will hopefully be in contact in the future. John and Brad, you're talking about starting a podcast, and what it seems like using that to talk people out of buying into cryptocurrency, but we'll see how that goes. Probably.
No, actually, it's going to be a crypto therapy group, I think, instead. I think that'll be better.
That's what this ended up being, honestly.
Either way.
Yeah, Crypto's Anonymous.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, that's the title. Crypto's Anonymous. I love it.
All right. Brad and John, I look forward to hearing from you. If you get that up and running in the future, let me know. David, thanks for being here and being the reasonable, non-gambling piece of garbage that Brad and John are. All right. Thank you guys all. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Dan.
Take care.
Thanks.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little something in the process. Before you go, I would like to ask you again to please spread the word of the show. Share it with just one person this week and help me kick this thing up a few notches. And if you'd like to go above and beyond, you can help support the show by joining the Downers Club and signing up for as little as $1. That'll get you access to our many hours of hilarious bonus audio content. You'll get to join our exclusive Facebook group, and at certain levels of contribution, to say a big thank you for your support, I will send you free shirts, merchandise, and more. For info on how to join that, again, just go to tsidpod.com/support. You can also personally join the conversation by joining our forum on Facebook. It's absolutely free, and everyone is welcome to come in and civilly discuss all of these uncomfortable topics and more. Just do a Facebook search for the System is Down forum, request to join, and I'll get you in there right away. Another free and fast way that you can help out is by reviewing and subscribing to the show on iTunes so you don't miss a single episode and we can continue to get this show into as many ears as possible. So please do all of that, and I will faithfully be back here first thing next week with some more uncomfortable conversations, and if you're so kind as to do the same, I would greatly appreciate it. Until then, have a great week, question everything, and stay uncomfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.